and make a sound loud enough to let the devil know that despite all the hell you're going through, you still come out on top.
Yes.
I am not going to be long because I have 9 minutes now.
Yes.
Tonight we're talking about covenant. Minister Aaron, you threw that word at me, and it was a bit challenging because a lot of people throw that word around and really don't understand what it means. So I did some digging, and the word covenant means it's an agreement or a legal term denoting a formal and legally binding declaration of benefits from one party to another. And more importantly than what covenant is, I looked into what happens when one breaks it. And what happens when a person breaks covenant is that they usually die or miss out on what's been promised. And so a lot of us find ourselves in situations asking questions as if God is not a man that he should lie. Then why do we feel as if he's turned our back on us on this thing called covenant promise? And we sit and we sulk and we ask the question, what have we done so wrong that God won't let things go right in our lives? Right. But what we do not understand is that we've done ourselves a disservice regarding the process of promise. We say things like it takes too long, and because God doesn't do things in our time, and we feel as though we're getting older, or God, when is it my turn? This person's getting blessed and I'm still sitting here with nothing. We take matters into our own hands. And when we take matters into our own hands, we figure cutting corners and hugging a few curves isn't a bad idea. But what we end up doing is diluting or getting in God's way as far as what it is he's trying to get us to do. And what we also failed to identify with is that picking up our own ideas and strategies ends up leaving a void in us, because what we have put out or exerted of our own energy, it was nothing more than an emotional high. And we're looking for our next fix. When's our next pulpit performance? When can we play with someone's emotions and prophesy? When can we ride this wave and pad our pockets? Like, we're looking for something because we're empty, because we've strayed so far and far away from what God had originally intended. When God doesn't need our help, he just needs a yes. Why doesn't God tell us about process? I asked him that because he sure didn't tell me about mine. And so I said, God, well, why don't you tell us about process? You give us these dreams, but you don't tell us what we have to go through to get there. And it's because if we knew beforehand, a lot of us wouldn't be where we are today. And I said, well, God, they like scripture. Can you give me some scripture to show me these things? And he took me to the book of Genesis about a man named Joseph. And Joseph had a dream about the sun, the moon, and the stars bowing down to him. But what God didn't reveal to Joseph is that from the point that he had the dream until it came to pass that he would be betrayed by his brothers, that his father would rebuke him, that the people that he loved and were closest with would take the only thing he had of any value and leave him in a hole. Nobody told him he would have to go through all these things. No one told him he would end up in jail bound. No one told him that he will find himself in the same situation as another man, help that man, and then be forgotten about for 3 years. And I found a problem with that scripture, because how do you forget about somebody, Prophet Mahdi, for 3 years, especially someone that got you out of prison? And I asked God again, how? Like, I have clothes in my closet that people have given me or that I've acquired, and I know when I got them. So how does someone forget about you that brought you deliverance and that got you into your next level of living? How do you forget for so long? And God told me it's not that he was forgotten. Joseph's promise was in the earth, but it wasn't ready for him yet, because Pharaoh didn't have this dream until 3 years later. And a lot of us feel as if we are on lockdown or we are in some type of holding pattern, but it's because even though the person we're supposed to reach out to or the person's life we are supposed to impact, it's not that season and it's not that time. And had Joseph been remembered immediately and came out, it would have been no use. It would have been no need for him. And there would have been nothing, that portion of the story, there would have been a gap, because there was no dream. There was nothing tormenting Pharaoh. And so there was no need for Joseph. God then told me, he said, the amount of hell you go through in life is oftentimes based on the magnitude of the dream that you had.
Wow. That's good. That's good.
And that really took me for a loop. I said, what do you mean? He said, son, the amount of hell you go through in life being abandoned, family falling apart, people dying, can't find a job, have no money. It's all a part of the process. And I'm just about done, even though I skipped some lines and did some things. But God is trying to move his people into a place where he can get a return on the investment that he made in us. There's so much greatness in this room, and I could have went a whole other direction, but I chose to stick to the script. God is about to usher us into this season of promise. And he asked, the last question I asked God, and I'm closing, is God, well, how do you know when you're there? And he said to me, when your it becomes a he. And I said, well, God, what does that mean? And Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3, somewhere around there, it says, though the vision tarries, wait for it. And I said, God, well, what is it? And he took me back to Joseph, and he said Joseph had a dream about the moon and the stars, but he wasn't readily able to identify what those things meant. So it was, he had an idea, he got a glimpse, but he didn't come into full understanding until he flipped the pages and went through the process. And then he took me to Hebrews 10:37, because it says, when he comes, he will come and will not tarry. And the he is substance, Marty. It's something you can grab. It's something you can see. The stars are not stars anymore. They're his brothers. The sun is his father. The moon is his mother. It all makes sense. So as you're going through this process, though in the beginning you didn't understand, when things start to make more sense, know that you're closer to what it is God has promised. And stay the course, because you don't want to miss this. Because there's something great sweeping through Philadelphia. I can't speak for every other city or any other state, but there's something great sweeping through Philadelphia. And we've been through enough hell. And so we need to remain focused, because the door is unlocked. And God is about to usher us to turn the doorknob and walk through what it is he's destined us to become in this time and in this season. Thank you for your time.